Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you not a big DJ Khaled guy?
Hansbrough up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner. You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
They have no swag. They have no nothing.
Terrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Let's get this party started on this Monday night, March the 4th. We welcome you to the Field of 68 After Dark. We're on Sirius XM. We're on YouTube. We're on X. We've got Last Call on the Stadium app. We'll tell you more about it. I'm John Fanta. Rob Dauster is here. Tyler Hansbrough is locked in tonight. And as Texas and Baylor are wrapping up, we'll get to them in the Big 12. We'll get to Monday Night Overreactions. But we begin with Tyler Hansbrough's league, with what Terrence Oglesby calls the greatest conference ever. The ACC final score tonight, Duke 79, NC State 64. Rob Dauster, I've got a note for you, and I want your reaction right off the top of this show.
Hit me with it.
Since December the 9th, Robert, these are the teams that have the three best records among Power 6 teams. UConn and Purdue at 18-2. Behind them, John Shire's Duke Blue Devils at 19-3. Just one off the pace of Connecticut and Purdue. Rob, your reaction to that, your reaction to this Duke team, and are you buying them a little bit more?
Yeah, I am. The three losses were against Pittsburgh when they were missing a couple of starters. Jimmy Roach missed that game. At North Carolina by 9 in what was a close game and a very understandable loss. And at Wake Forest by 4 points in the court storm where Kyle Filipowski miraculously survived that serious injury and bravely returned to the floor. Yeah, I'm in on Duke as one of the higher floor teams in college basketball. I think that when you look at their guard play, when you look at how good Filipowski has been throughout the course of the season, when you look at the emergence of someone like a Sean Stewart, who's been really damn good over the course of the last 3 games, gives them a little more athleticism, gives them a little more dynamism at the 5. It's very hard for me to see Duke being a team that can't make it to the second weekend, right? When you put them in context with someone like a Baylor, for example, who's playing tonight, with someone like a Kentucky, I don't think that they have the upside to be able to score with some of the teams and run with some of the teams and be able to beat anybody in college basketball. But I firmly believe that this is a team that is going to get to the second weekend at minimum. And I just their development throughout the year, John, when you think back to the losses to Arkansas, the loss at Georgia Tech early on in the season, the point when they were 5-3, it kind of looked like a mess, right? It did not look like they were in a position to be able to turn this thing around. But for the second straight season, I think you got to give a lot of credit to John Shire and his ability to kind of figure out what works with this group and find a way to get them playing their best basketball in March. At the end of the day, that is what the best coaches in college hoops do. They find a way to get their teams playing in March at their best, the best level, peaking at the right time. And I think Shire has been able to do that the last 2 years, specifically this year. I'm very, very excited, Tyler, about this game coming up in Cameron Indoor Stadium on Saturday. That is going to be electric. It's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere, and it's going to be for the ACC regular season title. I can't wait. That's what you want in March, right? You want 2 rivals, 2 blue bloods, 2 top 10 teams going at it for a title to hang a banner.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a great game, and it's going to the thing with Duke to me is I'm not sure they've really figured out their best lineup. And they really struggled tonight guarding DJ Burns. And I've said all year, Kyle Filipowski is not built for guarding strong physical big men. And he is a dynamic big. He does a lot of different things. He's a spread the court big, but he is not a just grind it down low in the post with a strong physical big. And if you looked at the game in the Smith Center, Armando did the same thing and DJ did the same thing tonight. DJ just didn't get a lot of help. And You saw Filipowski get into foul trouble against DJ early in the first half, and then that's when they brought in Sean Stewart. And I've said all year they need to play Sean Stewart or some other guy that can bang with these bigs, because I don't think Kyle Filipowski is built for doing it on both ends, especially if they want to be a dynamic, spread the court offensive threat. And I think that's when they're best, is when he's able to do that.
Do you agree, Rob? Is that their Achilles heel?
Yeah, they don't really have that stalwart defensive five, right? There's a reason why they were linked with players like Ernest Uday in the portal this summer, right? There's a reason why losing Derek Lively was looked at as something that would be difficult for them to overcome. And I just when you see how they've kind of grown through that, right? It's not just Sean Stewart, right? Like, I think that Mark Mitchell has gotten better throughout the year at kind of being the athletic switchable piece that they want to use him as. I think Ryan Young, at the bare minimum, is really good at getting in the way, right? There's two different ways that you can kind of be a rim protector. One of them is to block shots above the rim, and the other one is to just kind of get in the way and make it difficult for anybody to get where they want to get to. And I think Ryan Young can do that well enough where he's worth the 10 to 15 to 20 minutes that he's going to get on the floor here. But when I always come back to this, I don't know how many backcourts are better than Jeremy Roach and Jared McCain right now, right? It's funny when you think about it, because Tyrese Proctor was the guy that we came into the season hailing, right? And it was me. I probably was the one leading the bandwagon of saying this is a guy that could be an All-American. This is a guy that could be a top 10-ish, lottery-ish kind of a pick. And I still think that potential is there for him, especially long-term. But watching the way that this season has played out, like, Jared McCain is as lethal of a shooter as you're going to find in college basketball. Jeremy Roach is as good of a kind of veteran leader point guard that you're going to find in college basketball. When you put those two together, you got a very, very good and a very, very dangerous backcourt. And again, I hate to keep going back to what's happening on Saturday, because we're talking about a game that happened tonight, but I'm so excited for RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau going up against Jared McCain and Jeremy Roach. Like, that's one of the most intriguing parts of an incredibly intriguing matchup between those two teams. Yeah,
I can't wait. Saturday night for college basketball is beautiful. You get the Duke Carolina game at 6:30. Then and that's on ESPN, and on primetime broadcast TV on Fox at 8 o'clock is UConn at Providence. And if Providence can beat Georgetown tomorrow, that primetime game at Providence with arguably the best team in the country, number 2 today in the poll, going there. The Saturday night in college hoops is exactly what you want heading into the full-fledged championship week. I have a really fun question for you guys. And I'm Tyler. I'm going to put Rob on the spot first with it. Trevor Valise is in progress of building this. Here it is. So a blue blood reset, if you will, in our top segment. We'll ask the YouTube chat this as well. Give me a rankings 1 to 4. 1 with the team that you feel best about. Kansas, Duke, Carolina, Kentucky. Who will have the most successful March? Rob Dauster.
Are we factoring in conference tournaments into that conversation?
At the end of the day, for the 4 blue bloods, yes, you can. Yes, you can. But these 4 programs are judged by what they do in March Madness. So 1, the one you feel best about, 2, 4.
I'm going to go with North Carolina as number 1 out of that group, because I just think with the way that they can guard, the fact that RJ Davis can win a game all by himself and has done it like 3 or 4 times so far this season, and just the emergence of Harrison Ingram at the 4 spot. I'll always say this, John and Tyler, and you guys have heard me say it a million times. The 2 most important positions in college basketball, the point guard and the 4. And I think that that North Carolina is probably the best out of these 4 teams when it comes to those 2 positions specifically. So I'll go North Carolina 1 there. I'm going to go Kentucky 2, because I think Kentucky has the highest ceiling out of those other 3 teams. I think they are the one team where I can say they would have a very real shot to beat anybody that they would play heading all the way to the national title game. I don't think that there's anybody in college basketball that they cannot beat if they play their best game. Now, they can also lose to quite literally anyone. Like, I would not be surprised to see him be a 4 seed and get picked off by a 13 because they just decided not to guard that day. UNC Wilmington, for example. But I think that Kentucky has the highest ceiling out of the other three. Then I would go Duke because I like I said before, I feel very confident about Duke finding a way to get to the second weekend at minimum. I kind of think that they're upset proof with their guard play and what Flip brings. And then I go Kansas for a lot of different reasons, but the biggest one to me is that I think you can make the argument Kevin McCullough is their best player. And I can't trust a dude who's missed 4 out of the last 6 games with a knee issue when he's going to have the Big 12 tournament and you're going to have to play 2 games in 3 days. Like, that's just not an easy thing to deal with. So, for a number of different reasons, but mostly just the health of Kevin McCullough for me, I would go Kansas for. And it feels so uncomfortable to say that about a team coached by Bill Self that I have the least faith of them in the NCAA tournament.
They're in action tomorrow against Kansas State. Tyler Hansbrough, how would you rank these 4 Blue Bloods? Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky. We're asking the question, folks, who will have the most successful march from 1 to 4, 1 being the one you feel strongest about? Tyler, go.
North Carolina won. They have R.J. Davis, the best guard in the country. He can get you a bucket whenever you need it. They also have Armando down low. A lot of people tend to forget how dominant of a big man he can be. And also, they're an older team. They have a lot of new additions. Harrison Ingram, we just talked about what he can do. Number 2, I'm going Duke. I like Jeremy Roach. I like Filipowski. And I think this team is still developing, and their ceiling is high. They have a lot of good players, and I think they'll figure it out. And third, I'm going Kansas. I think Kansas's 4 players are better than any other 4 players in the country. I think McCullough will get healthy. I like Dickinson down low. I think they're an older team, and I trust Bill Self, especially over Calipari. So I'm going UK 4th last. I think they're young. They play defense when they want to, even though they've shown it at spurts. I'm not big on young teams winning and advancing deep into the tournament. Even though they do have a talent and they have a high ceiling, I'm not sold on them.
So hold on, John, let me ask you a question. Does this mean that officially that Kentucky has surpassed Duke in the Tyler Hansbrough hatred rankings? Are we there yet, Tyler, or no?
They did a while ago, I think.
This is right here. This is an analytical based kind of decision going off of years prior. That's what I'm going to base this ranking off of. So it's I don't know, Ken Palm, Tyler Palm. So that's what it's based off of.
Ty Palm. There you go, Ty Palm. He's here.
Oh my God, you did not just say that's a T-shirt. That's a T-shirt. Well, that's a T-shirt. Hansbrough just came up with his own Tyler Palm. Psycho Palm. Psycho T-Palm. Psycho T-Palm. That's really, really good by you. All right. Well, while we've got exactly. Do you charge for subscriptions?
Yeah, we'll figure that out. I can get you a deal. Okay. Fanta, I can get you some access.
So while we've got 2 minutes in our opening segment, Ty Palm, give us a North Carolina reset. How do you feel about the Tar Heels right now?
I feel very confident. I will say that we've had our struggles, and I think I know where our struggles lie. I think teams that are big and physical, I think that Elliot Cadeau, Seth Trimble, and R.J. Davis are not the biggest guards. So teams with athletic, big guards can give us some problems. And also late game execution. And I think sometimes in some games we showed, lack of executing or making plays to kind of seal the deal late in the game. But also I will say Elliot Cadeau has really developed, and he's a different player than he right now than he was when we played Kentucky. And you could use that as an example of not executing late in the game. And I think he's a different player, and I think his confidence is much higher. So I have a little more confidence in that area.
Rob, what's your thought process with Carolina? What is the key for North Carolina to get to Arizona in April?
Look, R.J. Davis has to play well, right? He has to play well. He is the best player on that team. He has to find a way to play well. They got to make shots. I think that Cormac Ryan being the guy that had that stretch where he hit multiple threes for like 4 straight games is probably the most important part, or the X factor, I would say. But at the end of the day, like I think that them guarding, like finding a way to continue to guard the level they've guarded this season is something where, that's not what we expected out of them this season, right? Like most of us look at North Carolina and kind of say like, okay, look, they're going to put up points. They're going to try to beat you 90 to 80. They're going to try to play an 80 possession game. They're going to try to get up and down the floor. And that's not exactly, this team reminds me a little bit of Fanta. They remind me a little bit of that Alabama team from 2021 that won the SEC, where everyone talks about how much they can score because they want to play like this. But at the end of the day, they're winning games because they are a top 5, top 6 defense in college basketball. And I think that's what has to continue, right? You got RJ Davis. It's like North Carolina, where if your defense keeps you in a game, then you have a guy that can go out and win it for you, regardless of who's on the other side of the ball. So I really like this North Carolina team. They'll probably end up as a 2 seed. I'll probably have them heading to the Elite 8, and depending on the way that the brackets shake out, maybe the Final 4.
Hey, our Feeling the 68 crew had a couple of really tasty regions. We'll talk about them more. Get your Monday overreactions. We're just getting started with After Dark.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 as we all get ready for the best month of the year, March Madness. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you will get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $5 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. That's FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $150 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available in one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in Philly or New York, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create a new account in each state. It's easy, it's simple, and it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and my personal favorite, a nice little parlay boost here and there. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. John Fanta, Rob Dauster, Tyler Hansbrough with you tonight, or as now he's known as Tyler Palm. For a brand new metric system that he introduced us this evening, just in time for March Madness. Hey, want to tell you about Last Call. Last Call is now exclusively on the Stadium app. Yes, at midnight. Download the all-new app and interact with us during Last Call. Join the live chat and play interactive games for a chance to win prizes. We want to hear from you. Download the app now, join in the conversation, and enjoy Last Call coming up on the Stadium app at midnight. All right, fellas. We dive into the Big 12 a little bit. I alluded to it. We have Feeling the 68 every Monday and Friday. It is our bracket show. Rob, earlier tonight you tweeted out, yeah, that would be unbelievable. You said the Midwest region would be awesome. So I'll go to it here. Our crew currently has the Midwest region as Purdue, who would be the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, Kansas, Creighton, and Kentucky. And Rob, your thought process was?
Yeah, you got 3 blue bloods there, or you got 2 blue bloods there. You got Creighton there. You got Purdue there. That would be an absolutely electric atmosphere. And I think that's what you're looking for when it comes to, you got 4 teams that could all come out. Like, you can make a very strong argument that any of those 4 teams could win that region if they all get there. And you have 4 fan bases that are going to travel, that are going to show up. And I think that's what you want when it comes to these these events, right? When it comes to the regionals, you want a place where there's going to be fans in the building. You want a place where there's going to be fans of both teams in the building, and you want to be able to have the potential for an outcome that is not predictable, right? So I think that would be an unbelievable setting. Tyler, the East, we have UConn and North Carolina projected to match up in the Elite Eight in Boston. I don't know if that happens, man. All I'm saying is we might have to make a little side bet here. We might have to make a little side bet and see what happens.
Man, Dauster, you know what I think about UConn. I think they're the toughest team, and they have big physical guards, and that was a tough matchup for us. We are a different team, but I don't bet on my Tar Heels. Last time I bet on my Tar Heels, it wasn't a good situation. So a little superstitious with that, but that would be a heck of a showdown, UConn and UNC.
Tyler, do you think that Connecticut is firmly the best team in college basketball?
I do, and I'm going basically off of what I've seen. I think they're the hardest playing team. Also, I think their their offense is very sophisticated. They make teams guard. They're big and physical.
Yes.
I really like them, and I think Hurley does a really good job. I like how animated he is, and also I like how he gets after the refs too. And I just think that he really rubs off on his team as well. And I like that personality. I like the team. I've always liked the UConn team ever since I saw them play UNC. They're going to be a tough team.
You would fit well in that program. Like you would have been a Hurley guy. Like we see Cam Spencer out here going nuts, doing his thing. Like I'm picturing you. I forget which game it was, but there's always that clips that they play where you make a shot and you're running down court and you got both hands pumping in the air like this. You would have been a Hurley guy. You would have fit really well there. John, in terms of like who the best team is, I think that is a really interesting conversation to have because it depends on the way that you define it, right? I think that Purdue is justifiably the number one overall seed because I think that they have the best resume. I think if you look at what they've accomplished this year, it's better than what UConn or Houston have accomplished in terms of the wins that they have and the teams that they have beaten. I think if you're going by the eye test, I think it's probably UConn that you would say, like if you watch them play, you line them up on paper, you say this is what they got. Their weak link is Cam Spencer or Steph Castle, who's going to be a top 15 pick, right? And I think on paper, UConn is probably the best team overall. But then if you look at any of the analytics, if you look at KenPom, if you look at the net, if you look at anything except for Tyler Palm, they all have Houston as the number one team in the country. So if you're trusting what the computers are going to say, it's probably Houston, right? And I think that is, I mentioned it before, but I think that's an ideal scenario for when you get to the tournament in that you have three teams that could all, depending on the way that you break this stuff down, could all go out and win it. And I love the way that this thing is shaking out. I love the way the season is shaking out. I know we have said all year there's no like dominant team. I'm kind of at the point where I think that there are three dominant teams. And then I think that there are like 6 or 7 really, really good teams that have a chance to win it all. I think that this tournament's going to be fun. And I think it's going to be one of those years where we have a lot of the big boys left when you get to the second weekend and you get to the Elite Eight. And I think that's kind of the ideal when it comes to it.
I think so too. I think we'll have 2 of those dominant 3 in the Final Four. I think the other 2 slots will be made up of 1 really good and 1 wild card. I still think we're going to see somebody play their best basketball over a 3-week span and represent what March Madness is about. I think when you look at these 3 teams, for Houston, what Houston's doing is unbelievable. They transitioned to the Big 12, college basketball's top conference, and they're 26-3 on the season. That is absolutely absurd what Kelvin Sampson has done there. Over the last 4 years, Houston men's basketball is 119-17. 119 wins to 17 losses. Give them their flowers. If you're hating on them or being critical of them, or this year, if you're saying, I don't trust them to score, they can't score. Folks, their offense ranks 13th in adjusted efficiency. Okay? Get a textbook and read up on them because it means that you're just going off of what you've previously seen from them. Jamal Shedd's an All-American, and L.J. Cryer's been the perfect addition to that team, and Emmanuel Sharp gets it done as well. To me, the best team in the sport is Connecticut because they answer every single damn question. Every one of them. Tristan Newton is as good as any guard in the country. He distributes, he rebounds for a guy at his size. You know, he's an amazing rebounder, and he scores at a high level. And he has a great knack for knowing when to make the right play. Alex Caravan, elite. Cam Spencer, you talk about fits with a program like Tyler Hansbrough. Cam Spencer's wired the same way mentally, and Donovan Clingan makes Connecticut a top 10 defensive team in America. So this is a team that can run it back, absolutely. And that's just it, guys. You got a team that can run it back. You got Houston who's searching for the complete national validation. Because if they get that title, all the critique that they can't score in the tournament, all this stuff, it goes away. And then you have the ultimate redemption tour, Rob and Tyler. You've got Purdue. And, you know, this has been what we've talked about all season long. Can they do it? Can they do it? And to those kids' credit, they could have had 4 or 5 more losses this season. And I wouldn't be panicking about them. I'd be saying, you know what? I think it's hard to fully focus when every focus is on March. Every narrative they deal with every single week is about what they're going to do in the NCAA tournament. I get it, but at the same time, appreciate the run of greatness that's happening in West Lafayette. Those fans will never have a 2-year run like this again. Relish it, relish every second of it. Zach Edey's generational in production. I don't care what anybody says. And that backcourt's another year older, and they've only gotten better. So you're right, Rob. This is going to be a hell of a frickin' ride. And I can't wait to ride the roller coaster with you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'll tell you what, we're watching the end of this Baylor-Texas game. Every time I watch Baylor play, I feel a little bit more confident in them being able to find a way to upset somebody. To be able to find a way to get, like, their offense is just so dynamic. Like, they have 6 guys that average in double figures, right? They are the best 3-point shooting team in college basketball, or they were as of like 3 days ago. I'm not sure if the stats probably updated by then, but I know that they have their issues guarding. But they put up 93 points in the Big 12 in regulation. They just scored 53 points in the second half. I wonder how much, if let's just pretend that they had won that game against Houston at home, right, where Yves Missy missed the free throw with like 3 seconds left that could have put them ahead, right? If they win that game, how different is the conversation that we're having about Baylor right now?
It's different. It's different, Tyler, right? I mean, we've been talking about them owning one of those a win over one of those teams at the top. But at the same time, they're 7-6 away from home. Away from Waco on the year, they're 7-6. Now, you could also say who's good away from their house. That's valid too. But Tyler, where I get worried about Baylor is like Texas is running their stuff, and eventually Baylor just outscored Texas. You're right, Rob. Their offense is very dynamic. But you know this, Tyler. If your ability to guard doesn't translate from game to game in the NCAA tournament, eventually you're going to run out of gas, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you. But also, I believe in Scott Drew. I think I think he'll have this team ready for the tournament. And also, this team is pretty young. Jacoby Walter, he is a freshman, and then Misi, young freshman. I think that the Walter kid, I think he can get you a bucket anytime you need. And Messi, he has the athleticism and he has the size. So I would say that Baylor has a high ceiling. And I think that you're right. You've got to have defense to win in the tournament. And you have to be a little bit older. But the thing I like is that Baylor really grinded this dub out tonight. And they kind of dug themselves a hole. And usually you wouldn't expect these young guys to come back and fight out and grind out a dub like they did. But that's why I like them, because they can figure it out and get these tough wins.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point, Tyler. I want to second that point because, all right, with 13 and 16 left in this game, Max Asmus made a jumper that put Texas up by 11, and it was 68-57 at that point. Texas didn't score again until a free throw with 7 minutes and 36 seconds left, like 5.5 minutes, right? Baylor ended up taking a 10-point lead. It was a 12-point lead. It was 87-75, and that was with a minute and 19 left. Baylor, when it came to nut cutting time, right, they gave up 7 points in a 12.5-minute window that won them this game. When they needed to guard, They dug deep and they got the stops that they needed to get. And I said this about Kentucky the other day. I don't think that they have to be a great defensive team for 40 minutes. I think they have to be a great defensive team for 10 to 12 minutes to be able to slow you down, and you're not going to be able to keep up with them because their offense isn't going to stop. And I think that I would put Baylor in that same conversation. I would put Alabama in that same category. I would put Illinois in that same category. I would put even like a Florida in that same category, that you know what they are offensively, how explosive they can be, and they have defensive issues. But as long as they are able to make the run when it matters and be able to get stops when it matters, that might be all it takes in a year where there are so many good teams that just kind of think defense is optional.
Perhaps. And the Dylan Dessou going down in this game didn't help. Not that he played a big role, but when he went down, Baylor was making their run. He gets escorted off the court, and then it just became an avalanche. Baylor's one of the best offensive teams in America. You're right. They've won 3 straight since that loss to Houston, and those have come against TCU, Kansas, and Texas. Monday overreactions next on After Dark.
What's going on, guys? Before we get back to the show, I need to let you all know about the Field of 68 Daily, an all-encompassing college basketball newsletter that arrives in your inbox, you guessed it, daily. For less than $1 a week, you'll wake up every morning to more than 1,500 words detailing everything that you need to know to stay up to date on the world of college basketball. From the notable mid-major upsets to the stars that are out injured to the breakout performances that only our team of college basketball junkies watched. The Daily is edited and produced by Mike Miller, who spent more than 2 decades running NBC's digital written content, and is subscribed by more than half of the Division I coaching staffs, the biggest names in college basketball media, and the agents that work as power brokers in the sport. For just $50 for the year, you get access to the same information that the insiders get. And before we get you back to your regularly scheduled Field of 68 content, let me tell you guys about the Field of 68 merch store. Head over to fieldof68.shop for officially branded Field of 68 apparel. Whether you're supporting your favorite team in the student section or from the couch, there is no better way to gear up than the latest from the Field of 68. The best thing I can say about our merch is the quality of the product. Anyone that has ever worn a t-shirt knows how frustrating it is when the neck gets all stretched out and the bottom of the shirt starts looking like the bottom of bell-bottom jeans. And there's nothing worse than a hoodie that loses its snugness that makes it such a perfect way to stay warm during the cold winter weather. Whether you're shopping for yourself or for the college basketball fan in your life, everything you need is at the fieldof68.shop.
It's time for Monday Overreactions on the Field of 68 After Dark. John Fanta, Tyler Hansbrough, Rob Dauster with you. We were asked earlier today to submit some overreactions, and we did, to our producer, Trevor Valise. And we've got some great questions for you guys tonight that we want you to chime in on. Is it a reaction or an overreaction? Rob Dauster. The team with the most at stake this March isn't Purdue. It's John Calipari and Kentucky.
Ooh. I mean, I think that those two are 1 and 2, and you can make pretty sound arguments either way. I would still tend to lead towards Purdue here, and that's because of the public narrative and the way that people view the sport of college basketball, right? Let's call it what it is. Purdue has been utterly dominant in the Big Ten for the last 2 years. For the last 6 years, they've been the best program and the best team in that conference. I think they have, 4 of the last 6 Big Ten regular season championships. They've won Big Ten tournaments in that time. We've seen them make runs to the Sweet 16. We've seen them get deep into March, right? But they haven't broken through. They haven't gotten to the Final Four. And the problem is, all we do is value the NCAA tournament when it comes to the success of a program and a team. So because they've lost to a double-digit seed in the last 3 tournaments, twice in the first round, once in the Sweet 16 to St. Peter's, we've branded them as the choke artists and overrated, and they can't win in March, and they actually suck, right? When they don't. They dominate everybody in the Big Ten, which is a Power 6 league, which is one of the 3 or 4 best conferences in the country, sometimes maybe the best conference in the country. So this idea that they they are terrible is because of the March success, because of the priority in this sport that we put on what happens in a one and done tournament in the NCAA tournament that gets as random and as weird as anything in sports in the United States of America. So I think that the pressure is on Purdue, and it is the wrong way to view that, but it is, because that's the way that we value stuff in college basketball in this sport right now in this country.
Tyler,
yeah, I'm with Dauster on this, and the reason I would say the pressure's on Purdue is because they have Zach Edey, and Zach Edey, he's a generational player in my opinion, and also Purdue. I'm not sure the next time Purdue will have a player of his caliber, and I think they need to max out his potential and what he does for that team. And also, I think Purdue, they're not in the situation where they're the top team in the country yearly. And I think Kentucky, one thing that Calipari does do is he recruits, and he brings in big-time recruits. And so that always seems to get the fan base excited. So I would say that based off the fact that Purdue has been upset, obviously last year before to St. Peter's, I think they have a little bit to prove, especially with Zach Edey and his emergence and how he's dominated college basketball. I think tournament success really needs to happen, in particular for them now, because also I think it will help solidify Zach Edey's dominance and give him more credibility to what he's already established.
I couldn't agree more with both of you. At the end of the day, John Calipari's been to 6 Final Fours, 4 of which have come at Kentucky. He's been a National Coach of the Year. He won national title. Matt Painter has not been able to even get to that Final Four, and frankly, he's had good enough teams to do it. And if this team isn't at least in a regional final, that's damn disappointing, because you get to a regional final, you're going to face a great team. Purdue should be there. They're more than capable. There's more pressure on Purdue. So it is an overreaction. The Boilermakers, we will have never watched a 1 versus 16 game to the degree that we're about to watch Purdue's 1 versus 16 game because of what happened last year. Reaction or overreaction, Rob? Dalton Knecht has made the National Player of the Year race a discussion.
It would have been if he had like an explosive game on Saturday when Tennessee won at Alabama. Because the argument would have been Tennessee's a 1 seed. This is what they've done as a 1 seed, and they wouldn't be anywhere near a 1 seed if Dalton Knecht wasn't this unbelievable superpower of a human being playing basketball, right? But they found a way to go out and win that game on a night where he really, frankly, struggled. I think he was 4 for 14 from the floor, 4 for 16 from the floor, or something like that. Him and Zakai Ziegler both struggled, and they won that game with their defense. And to me, that takes a little bit of the argument away from him being the player of the year, because it is not just Dalton Knecht as Tennessee, and you have to be superhuman right now, in my mind, to beat out Zach Edey with everything that Zach Edey has done this year, everything he did last year, as dominant as he's been since he got to Purdue, as dominant as Purdue has been since he's evolved into this generational talent. Like, you have to be superhuman if you're Dalton Knecht, and I don't think that he has been superhuman enough. He's the second best player in college basketball. For me, all due respect to your guy, RJ Davis, Tyler, for me, Dalton Knecht is the clear-cut number 2 guy in the National Player of the Year race, but he's still going to be number 2. And that's, I think that we kind of get a little bit of, it gets a little stale when someone is as good as Zach Edey has been for so long. It's like the argument with LeBron James. It's like Jokic right now when it comes to MVP, right? He is very clearly the best player in the NBA and very clearly the most valuable player in the NBA. But because we need to have something new to talk about sometimes, we kind of ignore that fact and end up voting elsewhere when it comes to that award. But it's Zach Edey. He's National Player of the Year. Dalton Knecht hasn't done enough.
Yeah, this is to me, this is a complete overreaction. Zach Edey is a National Player of the Year. He's the most dominant player in college basketball. He affects the game on both ends. Defensively, I know he doesn't put up the blocks that you think he would, but he changes and alters shots around the rim. You cannot you can't deny what he's done. And Dalton Knecht's had a good year, but he's the third best player in college basketball. R.J. Davis is the second best player. He can get you a bucket whenever you need it. Dalton Knecht probably wouldn't have his stats if they had more players that could score. Zakai Ziegler just came on later in the year, dealing with an ACL. Last year, just got his confidence up. But they needed him to score like he did. He had to put up numbers. And I would look at RJ and say he has more weapons. And he's been reliable. He's been one of these guys that I would trust him with the ball than any other guard to get us a bucket. So he's had a good year. Knecht, I would say he's the third best player in college basketball and also a first-team All-American. But he is not the National Player of the Year. It's an overreaction.
Yeah, I'm with you. Zach Edey had this National Player of the Year award lined up when he decided last May 31st that he was going to be coming back to college. That's just how it goes, and he's put up those numbers, and he's the best player in college basketball. Who's the best coach in college basketball? Reaction or overreaction, Rob? Dan Hurley is the National Coach of the Year.
Yeah, for me, the only person that you can put above him right now would be Danny Sprinkle. And the argument for Danny Sprinkle at Utah State is that he took over a program that didn't bring any points or anything, like didn't bring a single second of basketball back from last season, right? And has found a way to win a league that could send 6 and potentially 7 if UNLV wins the Mountain West tournament, sending 7 teams to the big dance, right? I think that's the argument for him. But I do think it's important to know when it comes to this conversation of Coach of the Year that we so often value teams that overperform expectation, right? While ignoring that oftentimes what a coach's job is in the college basketball ranks involves being the GM, being the guy that builds the roster, being the guy that decides who to recruit, being the guy that decides who to bring into the program. So in addition to building the roster, you also have to coach the roster. And I think that the fact that he was able to rebuild this roster after losing Jordan Hawkins, Andre Jackson, and Adama Sanogo, Naheem Aline, Joey Calcaterra, 5 of the 8 guys that took him to a national title last year, right? Retaining a lot of the really important pieces that he needed to be able to retain, and also going out and finding a player like a Cam Spencer in the transfer portal and getting freshmen like Steph Castle and Solo Ball who have been able to contribute. I don't think that is something that gets valued enough. The fact that you were able to build the roster that could have this level of success and then sustaining it, man. Like, he's done an unbelievable job. For me, he is the National Coach of the Year as of today. And the only guy, look, all due respect to Lamont Paris, all due respect to TJ Otzelberger. They have been fantastic this year, right? The only guy for me that you can make an argument for above Hurley right now would be Danny Sprinkle. And that's assuming that Danny Sprinkle finds a way to be able to win the Mountain West.
Tyler, is Dan Hurley the National Coach of the Year?
I like it, but if I was going to debate, I would say Calvin Sampson deserves a little bit of respect, and he also deserves to probably be in contention. You can make an argument for him. I like Altenberger from Iowa State. I think he's done a good job, and he's surprised a lot of people. But those 2 coaches, I would debate a little bit. I like Anthony Grant from Dayton. I think he's done a good job this year. So those would be my 3 other contenders. But, yeah, I don't mind Dan Hurley. This isn't an overreaction at all.
Last year, Dan Hurley went 31-8, and his team finished in 4th place in the Big East Conference. They went 13-7 in the league. Now, we all know how it ended. And how it ended made you then say, well, he'll come into this year, they'll ride the momentum and be able to keep it rolling. And so then I think as a result, a lot of people think to themselves, well, then in that regard, I don't know if he's done to the degree that others have with maybe less, like a Sprinkle or a Paris. Here's the deal here, folks. He's 26-3, 26-3. Lost 1 non-conference game at Allen Fieldhouse. Dan Hurley is the National Coach of the Year. His team was picked 3rd in his own league. His team was picked 3rd in the Big East. They're the best team in the country. They're the most complete team in the country. People thought they'd take a step back. He lost to Dama Sonogo, Andre Jackson, and Jordan Hawkins. They haven't taken one step back. They've taken a leap forward. Their offense has only aged. Cam Spencer was the best portal addition next to Dalton Knecht that you'll see. All right? Caravan and Klingon fit this program perfectly. Newton, why are you confused?
Just the Cam Spencer portal edition. Cam, Dalton Knecht. I think you might be right. Yeah.
Yeah, Knecht is one and Spencer's two. Knecht is the second best player in the sport this year. Caravan and Klingon have grown. Tristan Newton is an elite point guard. And Stefan Castle, if you don't think coaching happens in stores and player development happens in stores, look at how Castle's grown as the season's gone on. They develop. They compete harder than you. Their offense is beautiful. They defend their asses off. And that guy is a little bit crazy in a great way. It's what makes him a winner and a champion. More overreactions next. Hurley's the coach of the year.
Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first-name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this. You get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part. The more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider to level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast. It really is that simple.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. Hey, we want to tell you again about the fact that Last Call coming up at midnight is on the Stadium app. Last Call is now exclusively on the Stadium app. Download the all-new app and interact with us during Last Call. Join the live chat. Play interactive games for a chance to win prizes. We want to hear from you. Download the app now. Join in the conversation and enjoy Last Call, which starts in 13 minutes coming up at midnight on the Stadium app. More Monday overreactions. Let's get right back to it, fellas. Here we go. Of this group, Illinois, Florida, Kentucky, Alabama, Baylor, they all have some of the best offenses in the country. Illinois, Florida, Kentucky, Alabama, Baylor. They'll all lose the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. Rob, reaction or overreaction?
Overreaction. I got a hot take for you. You guys ready? Put your seatbelts on. You ready for this? One of those five teams is going to be in the Final Four. One of those five will be in the Final Four. And I feel very confident in saying that because you're going to give me five chances with five of the 10 best offenses in the sport of college basketball that gets hot for 2 weekends in a row. I think that's very doable. And if we're talking about an Alabama and we're talking about an Illinois and we're talking about a Kentucky and a Baylor, like these are teams that are going to be like 2, 3, 4 seeds, right? They could play horrible in the first round and find a way to win. They could play a B- game in the second round and find a way to advance to the Sweet 16. So you're telling me all they got to do is get hot for one weekend? Well, I've seen Kentucky get hot for 2 games in a row. I've seen Baylor get hot for 2 games in a row. We just saw Illinois put up 91 points and 107 points in back-to-back games, right? We've seen Alabama score 100 points multiple times this season, right? We know what Florida can be offensively with your guy, Walter Clayton. Fanta, I'm in on one of those 5 teams making it to the Final Four. And if I had to pick one of them, I would say it's going to be Illinois or Kentucky. One of those two teams, I think, has the best chance of that group to be in the Final Four. I want to be shocked if it's both of them. I'm here. If you could give me an Illinois-Kentucky game in the first semifinal of the national title game, you know what would happen? That game would be 130 to 125. The score would be like the NBA. No one would be playing any defense. Coleman Hawkins would be out here dropping 55 points, flipping birds on everybody. I'm here for it, man. Let's go. I'm in. Illinois, Kentucky. Buckle up, Tyler. If that game happened, Tyler, would you – I feel like you would spontaneously combust. Like you would just burst into flames while you're sitting there watching it.
Listen, I won't be watching it because it's not going to happen. It's not – it is listen, one of these teams so that's exactly why these teams won't make the Final Four is because you've got to have defense. And in the tournament, games can get messy. They can get sloppy. It's a different type of atmosphere. And so I just think that guys are going to be thrown off their routines and the shots aren't going to be falling like they are at home, and it's going to be a little uncomfortable. So you've got to have defense. And so if I was going to pick a couple teams from this list, it would definitely be Kentucky or Baylor. I think they have the highest ceilings. I think they have NBA players, and I think that if they show up and they play defense consistently and they really improve, which I do believe that they probably will, even though we don't have that far off. I think those are the two teams that could go to the Final Four, but do I feel confident saying that? Absolutely not. I've always said that older teams win in the tournament, and I wouldn't believe in that. I don't think this is an overreaction.
Tyler, where would those 4 teams or those 5 teams rank in the Ty Palm defensive efficiency rankings?
Kentucky, as bad as they've been, I do feel like the Big Z kid, I think he's developing, and I think his length can give people issues. And I've seen some improvement there, but also Baylor, I would put them up there. Even though they've been very bad, I think they have the ability to, especially Misi. I think he's athletic, and I think he can change shots. Mm-hmm. So I would say Baylor has the potential to be a good defensive team as well.
I want to hear Tyler. What's Big Z's name? We got his name.
There's absolutely, listen, guys, there's no chance to pronounce that name. Not even close.
Zvonimir Ivasic. I perfected it. I've been practicing. Yeah. I stand in front of a mirror and I practice saying his name.
Here's the deal. All right. Illinois is 103rd in defense. Like they're not just 50th or 65th like Baylor is. They're 103rd. And I'll be honest with you guys. I think they're a good team. I think that Terrence Shannon is a bucket getter and as strong as they come, and obviously dealing with everything off the court there. That's unfortunate, and we'll see how things proceed there. But the fact is, he's available, and that's the reality of the situation. He'll be playing for Illinois, and you know what? With him on the floor, they can beat a lot of teams in the country. But and don't get me wrong, Marcus Domask has been a really nice addition to that team and was a great transfer portal pickup. But that's not a Final Four team. They're not. And part of it is they're getting propped up by a league in the Big Ten that has a whole lot of average. So when you're good, you could come off as really good nationally because I just don't think that they're getting tested as much as they have in the past couple of years in the Big Ten. Now, maybe that'll help them be better in the tournament because they didn't have to go through too much of a grind because I think some of these teams get worn out. But with Illinois, the defensive they don't even look like they're trying on the defensive end of the floor at times. I just don't think I've learned a whole lot new about Illinois as the season's gone on. I don't. I think they are who they are. And that's the ruling on Fanta's Forum. But one of those teams could make the Final Four. That I totally agree with you there. We got a couple more overreaction. This one I love because I feel this is a reaction. Rob, Iowa State is the most disrespected team in the country. And I think what I meant by that right in that was, this is a team in Iowa State, that's the second highest ranked Big 12 team in the country. They're ranked 6th in America. But I just feel like we don't talk about them like the 6th best team in America. I think a lot of people feel like they're like 11th to 15th in the country. I don't think people feel they're the 6th best team in the country. So are they disrespected?
I think they definitely get overlooked. That is 100% true. I think part of it is, let's be frank. They aren't Kentucky or Kansas or Duke or one of the blue bloods that will get the most eyeballs when people watch. Like that at the end of the day, a lot of that has to do with it, right? I think part of it is they don't play the most attractive style of basketball. It's kind of, you watch them and it's a slugfest. And what can you say about that? That when you get to the tournament, that the physicality and the way they let people play might have an impact. But I think that's part of it as well, is that, you watch Kentucky, they get up and down. You watch Illinois, they get up and down. You watch Arizona, they get up and down. You watch Iowa State, and you're watching a rugby match. But I think that also helps them, right? I think the fact that people that is kind of the I don't even know if it's a proper way to say it, but that's the way that the narrative kind of goes around Iowa State. I think that's something that TJ Otzelberger leans into. I think that's part of the reason why they're able to play the way that they play, and they show up with the effort that they show up with, because I'm sure that he is telling every single person in that roster on that roster in that locker room, hey, these guys aren't paying attention to us. Look where they got us ranked. Look where this guy's got us ranked. Look where they got us ranked. Look what they're saying about us. Look what they're saying about us. So I think that it works to their benefit given the style of play that you see out of Iowa State. I feel like I'm talking myself in circles, Tyler, but does that make sense?
It does. They play defense. They're a tough physical team. They're not a high-octane offense like you don't tune in to watch them. They're not a blue blood. So, yeah, I mean, they're a little disrespected, but also it's not like, I don't think there's a big demographic for Iowa State to watch Iowa State big-time games outside Iowa State fans. And that's just, to be honest, it's not anything disrespectful. But I think Iowa State is a sleeper team. So, they've had a pretty good year, and they definitely have the resume to make a deep tournament run.
We got 90 seconds here, so we'll do one more before we get out of here.
Can I ask you a quick question, Fanta? Illinois-Purdue tomorrow night. Who you got?
I am going to take Illinois at home. I'm going to take Illinois at home.
I kind of think that's where I'm at too, right? Like, I don't know how much Purdue has to play for. I think Illinois is going to be looking for some revenge. I think that the size and athleticism of Purdue's guards are going to of Illinois' guards are going to give Purdue a little bit of trouble. And I think the versatility of Coleman Hawkins to pull Zach Edey away from the basket. Tyler, who you got? I think Illinois wins this game. Is that crazy?
It is crazy. Purdue wins. Last time they played, Edey only played half the game. He was in foul trouble, and they still found a way to pull it out. I think Edey probably only logged under 20 minutes.
And didn't play in that game.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get out of here. That'll be a great game tomorrow. Hey, last call's now exclusively on the Stadium app. Get there for last call, and thanks for watching After Dark.